Hey everyone, I'm Ryan McGrady, and I'm going to talk to you about the block log. If this presentation seems a little bit familiar and you were at WikiConference North America a couple years ago, I presented something kind of similar. Basically, what I tried to do is apply some rigor and turn it into a real project. And so what I'm going to try to do over the next 7 minutes is distill what is now about a 10,000 word paper into a few slides and findings. First, a couple of quick definitions for those who may not be familiar. The act of blocking on Wikipedia is taking away a user's ability to edit pages. And in terms of content moderation, in the context of Wikipedia, I'm talking not just about content moderation in articles, but also on discussion pages and in policies and the many behaviors and people who enforce these things and the tools that they use and the policies that they go by, all that whole system. And I'm going to focus on one little piece of it, which is blocking. And I should say that the thing that I'm really interested here is to better understand the compromises that we make as the importance and the size of Wikipedia continue to grow while the volunteer pool shrinks. And specifically, the pool of administrators who are the only people who can make blocks. One more quick caveat, this is a focus on the English Wikipedia. All Wikipedia languages have their own blocking practices. The way that we log ours on the English Wikipedia is already messy enough. So let's jump into methods. On Wikipedia, basically everything you do leaves a digital trace. And you can query the wiki database to retrieve all sorts of things. One of the things you can retrieve are block logs. So I retrieved all of the available block logs from the database, which ranges from December 2004 to December 2024. The logs are a mess. There are all sorts of different ways that you can describe why you're blocking someone. The logs also switched at one point to a different syntax. You may think that something as standard as the duration of time that somebody is blocked for may be one of the easier things to deal with, but then you remember that, oh, actually there are a couple admins who like to block in fortnights. So this required an awful lot of cleaning and normalization in order to make sense of this as a whole. And finally, like I said, there are all sorts of ways that you can describe why you're blocking someone, and I tried to cluster them according to a keyword search. So when somebody is blocked, an administrator can type in a reason. Over time, there have emerged certain standard reasons, but it is a fully customizable field. Some people have just written things like go away. Some people refer to the same reason with multiple different terms. Edit warring, for example, can be referred to as edit warring, WP:edit war, WP:EW, 3RR, 1RR, but they all mean edit warring. And there are lots of those. All right, first off, 20.5 million blocks have been made on the English Wikipedia since the end of 2004. And let's look at how they break down by year. Wow, that is a big spike at the end. What happened in the last few years that radically increased the number of blocks? Turns out it was a couple of bots. A couple of bots that were approved to preemptively block open proxies. So these are things that we do not allow users to use for fear of abuse. It's a controversial policy, especially amid discussions of user privacy and protection. It's another conversation. When we look closer at the actual number, 85% are open proxies. So once we remove those in order to have a more reasonable, sort of more reasonable number to play with, we have just over 3 million blocks. And when we look at those breaking down by year, it looks something like this. And here's where I would be curious to hear from admins who have been around for a while if you have a better explanation than I've been able to find for the big drops and increases around 2012 and 2016, 2017. Jumping into block reasons. One thing, blocks for promotional activity and sock puppetry, which is when somebody illicitly uses multiple accounts. Those have increased as a proportion of all blocks, which kind of makes sense given the popularity of Wikipedia and the number of people who want to influence it also increasing over time. This one I found pretty interesting. Disruption and not here are two pretty vague reasons for blocking people. Disruption is more or less what it sounds like. It covers all sorts of different ways of disrupting Wikipedia, either by making bad edits or bothering people. And not here is a reference to an essay about being here to build an encyclopedia. And not here means not being on Wikipedia to build an encyclopedia. The other category was really big in the beginning before block reasons became kind of standardized, and this may also have to do with certain tools that have been rolled out, but then it has steadily decreased. Looking at the duration of blocks, I represented indefinite or infinite blocks as 999 days, which is why you see a big flat line there. The median block duration has been indefinite since 2010. The mean block duration, meanwhile, is just sort of steadily kind of increasing. And then just to put some numbers behind some of the labor trends, here are the total number of admins making blocks per year, steadily declining, and then the mean number of blocks per admin, which has been largely increasing. If you look at the top 10% of active admins per year, they do an awful lot of the work, hovering most of the time around 80% of all blocks. If you see that drop off at the right, that is the material scientist effect. One of our great admins who is extremely active and is still active, but somewhat less active, you can see that precipitous decline just based on that one person. Okay, let's do some quick discussion. Again, this is a project to attend to the compromises that we make when we scale volunteer labor as that labor pool decreases and Wikipedia itself grows in both size and importance. We can see but through the labor numbers that the blocking admins are decreasing and the blocks per admins are increasing. And unlike for-profit platforms, we can't just hire more labor. And I think that there are a few blocking trends that speak to this. So we have a trend of more preemptive blocking for blocking people for longer, and a shrinking other category in favor of more flexible or vague reasons. So these are things that cut down on the amount of time that admins have to spend doing their blocks. That was pretty fast. I know I left out a lot that's in the paper. I hope to be able to share that with you, and thank you very much for listening. Looking forward to questions.